Gunline Magnolia Mayhem. It's supposed to be one of the hardest matches that you can shoot in Rimfire. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Shoot More. If you're new, welcome. If you've seen some of the other content and you're not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do that right now. Today, we're going to talk about a match that I got to travel for, the Magnolia Mayhem down at Gunline in Carthage, Mississippi, I believe. And this is pretty widely known, unofficially, I guess, that this is one of the harder matches that you can shoot in the Rimfire PRS world. And it definitely lived up to its reputation. I think the one thing that surprised me, though, was it was fair, right? I think anybody can make a match that's just hard. It's too much to do in the time that you have allotted. But Chris did a really good job of putting in multiple different stressors, but they were done so in a way that it was still cleanable if you were on top of your game. I was not. I did not do well, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. I need to change some things in my process. It tested me in ways that I think needed to happen. I think a lot of matches really try to focus on one stressor at a time. That was not Chris's deal. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I did struggle a bit throughout the match. There's really two big takeaways that kind of threw me for a loop. One, my Kestrel was not correct. The previous weekend, I got my case of Tenex in. I went to the range. I trued it out on the Kestrel. Everything was great. 2 days before the match, I went out to the range to practice before leaving for the trip. Kestrel was off. Everything was high. So I adjusted the profile to match up for that day. That was a mistake. What I should have done was duplicate that original profile that I first set up, adjusted the second profile. That way, if something was off, which it was, I would have had the profile originally backed up that I could utilize for the match. All that being said, all of my dope was wrong for the match. Ended up being, I was about 6/10 off at 200 yards, which was sending me underneath targets. And when you're shooting a match like this, where the target sizes are already small, I was having some problems. So we'll kind of see me go through that struggle mentally at the beginning of the match. Really throws me for a loop on the first stage. The second thing that I really have taken away from these last couple matches is I'm having a hard time locking in mentally, and this match was a prime example of that. The first stage, I walked up to the line without my shooting bag. I had my rifle, everything was good, I thought it was good to go, and I'm like, something's missing. Oh yeah, my Armageddon gear, Schmedium. The guys that I shot with in this, I've only shot with one of these gentlemen before, and they all showed me a lot of grace. I'm very appreciative of that, trying to, set up the cameras and do all of that side of things and still perform and not hold the squad up. But everybody, at least forward facing, was very nice about it and willing to let me do what I needed to do to get set up. So if you guys watch this, thank you, I appreciate it. I think we'll kind of dive more into each stage as we go, so let's go ahead and jump into the footage. Alright, we started off on stage 8, Secret Service Rooftop Snipin. Part-time 90 seconds, round count 8. Target 1 was 178, 232, 303, 244, 183, 263, 172, 110. You were engaging from left to right across the entire range. It was probably an 80-degree swing. It was pretty big. So a couple big key takeaways here. It was storming on this day. We actually had a pretty decent rain delay when we started in the morning, and I was having a really hard time seeing a lot of what was going on with the trigger cam. You can't really tell from the trigger cam footage because it adjusts the exposure automatically, but things were dark, detrimentally so. And it was a problem, but I didn't take it off. I probably should have, looking back. But this is the first stage where I start to get some ideas that my dope's wrong. As you can see, I'm missing a lot of the targets low, slightly right, but a lot of these misses should have been impacts. And I'm sitting there mentally discombobulated at this point going, what's going on? Something's wrong. I don't know where I'm missing off of. And it's just causing me to not focus on making good corrections. I'm also going painfully slow through these processes. There's no oomph in my step. Ultimately leads me timing out. We got a 2 for that stage. How many wobbly trees was next up? 90-second par time, round count 8. 8-inch and 6-inch circle at 202 yards. I'm going into this stage thinking, what's going on? Is my dope wrong? Am I wrong? Did I range the targets wrong? Was there, a range discrepancy? You'll hear me a little bit later in this position, in this stage, say my dope's off. And I think I was missing partly because of windage too. The wind was carrying the bullets more towards the right. I was focusing so much on elevation, I wasn't seeing the windage misses. I kind of got tunnel vision, and I had tunnel vision for the first probably 2 or 3 stages of this match. Nothing was going well. I didn't feel good. I didn't have my process down. It wasn't smooth. But that's part of it. Trying to make some adjustments. And you see those are trending low right. Right there where they're debating about if I hit it or not. This was not hit to move on, so I shouldn't have stopped to listen to them. I should have just kept going. When you got a 1:45 or 2-minute par time, you can get away with little things like that. 90-second par times, you cannot fidget. That was a couple seconds that I burned that I probably could have got that last shot off for if I wouldn't have stopped and listened to what they were saying about that target that I may have hit. The other thing was it took my focus off of what I was doing onto them, and then that last target engagement, I ended up guessing because I didn't remember which target I was supposed to shoot. I guessed correctly. They called impact, but it just totally removed me from what I was doing, and it's not their fault. I should have known better to stay engaged with what I needed to do and then worry about the impacts, mitigation, score mitigation after. No big deal. We learn, right? Stage 10, shapes in order, 90 seconds, 13 rounds, 3 positions. Position 1 is star, diamond, triangle. Position 2 is triangle 2, star 2, diamond 2. And then position 3 is diamond 2, triangle 2, star 1. All at 177 yards. I think I'm right around 15x magnification on this. I did put a 10th extra in the dial on this. You can see that one of those first shots I was trending lower on the plate because I didn't trust that. I'm somebody that likes to have good confidence in my dope solution, and when I don't have confidence in my dope solution, it really messes with my whole process. That's something I need to get better at, but this match highlighted, the need to be able to adjust on the fly, and that's not something I'm good at. I'm not waiting to see my impacts here. I'm running the bolt before they're even calling impact. I can't really see well what's going on down at the berm. Most of the misses are getting eaten up by the grass. That last one I was able to see off the right side of the target, but I thought I had a good wind call on it, and I tried to finish out the stage before that changed, and that ended up hurting me. Moving on to stage 1, this is the PRS barricade stage, tiebreaker for the match. 90 seconds, 10 rounds, 2 targets, 1 on left, 1 on right, 125 yards, 1-inch targets. One's vertical, one's horizontal. I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to lock in at this point. Thinking a little bit clearer. Dope is still definitely an issue. I think I put a 10th in just to help mitigate any issues. I do have a failure to eject. The spent casing had extracted from the chamber. It just bobbled inside of the action itself. I've changed out the tensioner since then, and this is pretty much stopped, and this is the only time that this happened on this match. So I don't think that's really an issue, but I start to feel a little bit better about how things are going here. Wind calls on a 1-inch target at 125 yards is pretty critical. Again, I'm very focused on what I'm seeing elevation-wise, not so much windage. That's why I'm missing the vertical target. I think I'm sending it off of the right. The impacts I do have, I'm favoring slightly left. As you can see by the dust, there is a left to right wind, and the misses that I have, I'm pulling the trigger when the crosshairs are more dead up on the target. So I'm starting to feel better at this point in the day. I know that I'm not a contender at by any means at this point, but I'm just trying to get my mind back in the game to finish out as strong as I can. Alright, stage 2, G-Wall, 90 seconds, 10 rounds, 10 positions, 2-inch circle at 131 yards. I did pretty well here. I had a couple people go ahead of me, so I was trying to pay attention to what their pattern was. Could have been a little bit more efficient, I think, on movement of the gun, but you had to go through different sections of the wall, so you couldn't just run that entire ladder rung up and down. You had to use, I think, 3 different sections, 3 unique positions per sections, 4 total sections within the wall.
Look through the window. Is there one in that? Hold up just a second. Back.
My transition from this section to the next section is where I start to run into problems. So I should have gone straight down to that first crevice. I go to the top of the G, which isn't a big problem. The problem comes with my next choice of position. I try to go in the G itself. I'm looking at this going, it's not going to fit. Confirm that doesn't fit. And that pretty much does me in. I wouldn't have had enough time to get the rest of the shots off as it was anyway. But I probably could have gotten one more impact beyond that last shot. So, but feeling pretty good there. Didn't miss any shots on this run. Probably could have pre-stage planned a little bit better so that I didn't run into that issue with the vertical space being a constraint for getting my rifle in. But overall, feeling a little bit better at this point in the day about how things are starting to come together. Stage 3, hold them triangles, 90 seconds, 12 rounds. It's a troop line basically. 53, 63, 73, 83, 93, 103. After every 3 shots, shooter will change positions, total of 4 positions. Holdovers only, cannot adjust turrets or power during the stage. You can adjust parallax. So, did pretty well here. Trying to mentally think through the stage as I'm going, making sure I'm moving when I need to. I adjusted the parallax after the first couple shots. That was an elevation issue. It hit the stand just a hair under the target, and it's just the issue with the dope being off. So I'm holding a little bit higher on the targets, making sure that that's not going to happen again. Overall, pretty happy with how the stage went. This was definitely one of my better stages. I've practiced holdovers a lot. I actually think I'm better at holdovers now than I am at dialing. But yeah, on to the next.
Impact. Impact. Target down.
Bipod stage, what's the catch? This was tough. 5 targets, different distances. You can only see them from certain benches. This first target was hard. I ended up not being able to see it on binos. That little gray square that you see there to the was it right of the tree? That's the target we're shooting at. Could barely see it. Didn't want to die time-wise trying to get those impacts, so I did what I could just to move on. End up doing okay for the rest of this. Dope issues start showing themselves again, but I'm starting to account for it better here. I'm also making better corrections on the misses. You'll see that, I think, on this next engagement. Underneath it again. Just being low on the targets. First shot goes low. I hold over to correct. Impact. So I'm starting to put it back together. Doing better, moving fast. I'm taking what I've learned in that previous stage or the previous position into this position, knowing that I need to give it some extra elevation. I hold over the target and end up making connections. So this stage was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Stage 5, S10 head hunting. 90 seconds, 10 rounds, 3 shots at the mover, 2 shots at the static heads further out, and then move. This was probably one of my worst stages for the day. Should have been able to make easy corrections on the mover. You can see him plain as day on the berm, and I wasn't doing it. I don't know, I kind of, looking back, I thought my trigger press was slow, so I was trying to be faster on the press. I should have just led the target more. That would have fixed it, because it was consistently the same distance behind the target for every engagement. So, live and learn. We don't have movers that we shoot at our local matches. I wish we did. The only practice we really get on them is at matches themselves. Live and learn. Stage 6, Haybailer. I actually enjoyed this stage. 90 seconds, 10 rounds, 5 prairie dogs to 233 yards from big to small. If you miss, you move positions. So if you're on your game, you shoot from 1 position. If you're not on your game, you're shooting from 10 positions. I think the thing to watch out here for on these kinds of stages is the ROs make the impact calls, so that determines if you move or not. I shouldn't have hesitated when they made the impact call. I should have just taken it and run with it. So I did waste a couple seconds there, but it didn't end up mattering. Wasn't a big deal. Overall, it takes me a little bit to kind of figure out what the wind's doing. I think the wind stabilized towards the end of the stage, the second half of the run. I'm also not seeing a lot of what's going on. There's a lot of mirage right now. It looks real murky. The parallax is set correctly, but it's hard to see. I will say I am pulling the trigger cam off. I'm going to shoot my next match without it, just to try and see if it changes anything. If it doesn't, it'll be going back on. If it does, I'm going to be pretty hard pressed to keep it shooting with it at matches. But I ended up finding the call here towards the end, and I get my shots off and get some points. Stage 7, the big reveal. This was the only stage that I didn't like, I guess you could say. It's a little bit gamey. It's more what I would expect at like NRL, not PRS, but we all had to shoot it. 10 rounds, 8 possible points. You had to spin the spinner and then engage the target behind it, but you had to move positions after every shot. Having listened to some podcasts and some people talk about this, I'm almost wondering if you could see the point target from one of the farther angles and it was set up as a mind game so that everybody shot from those 2 rocks that were right next to each other, when in reality, if you could have gone to the other side, could you have just seen the point target and not had to spin the spinner at all? I don't know. I didn't look. I didn't think about that until after. But nobody in my squad shot it like that. everybody kind of did this little back and forth dance that we did here. I'm pretty much cooked mentally by this point in the day. I'm tired. I'm not giving it my all. I'm just kind of sending rounds lazily. I'm not really trying to do the best that I can. Point there, I sent it right off the right hand side. So not the greatest way to end it, but I was pretty done by this point in the day.
Whoa.
So final thoughts. I wish I could go back and shoot it again. I think having a dope profile that was accurate could have allowed me to put more energy into focusing on reading wind, focusing on movement, making sure, you know, everything else that needs to happen happens. But I learned a lot. I really appreciated going down for the match. It was cool seeing a course of fire like this, and I've taken some of this back to our local matches. I think we're going to start to incorporate some of the stage designs a little bit and get a little more diversity in our matches going on up here. I think I placed middle of the pack, like 15th or something like that. Did not do well. It's okay. I enjoyed the experience. I learned a lot. I walked away knowing I had to work on a couple things. I really need to get better at time management and moving with intent. I feel like I've slowed down a lot through whether movement, building positions, etc. Just anything that's not shooting. You know, even shooting, I feel like I kind of fall in love with the target a little bit before I want to break the shot, and I want everything to be perfect. And that adds a second or two to each shot process. And when you're talking about 10 shots, 2 seconds for 10 shots, that's 20 seconds. That's significant. So just trying to shave time where you can, but still get the shots off and have them be good shots. It's just something I need to spend a little bit more time on. All that being said, I appreciate you guys sticking around for this long. Definitely one of probably the hardest match that I've shot. So it was a great opportunity to grow and learn and kind of figure out what we need to focus on going forward. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.